entire money-structured and materialistic-oriented society is a false society. Our society will go down in history as the lowest development in man. We have the brains, the know-how, the technology, and the feasibility to build an entirely new civilization.
It was living through the 1929 Great Depression that helped shape my social conscience. During this time, I realized the Earth was still the same place. Manufacturing plants were still intact, and resources were still there, but people didn't have the money to buy the products. I felt the rules of the game we play by were obsolete and insufficient. Misery, suffering, and war provided the incentive for my life's work. I was also motivated by the seeming incompetence of governments, the academic world, and the lack of solutions offered by scientists. I realized instead of working with individuals, a more effective method would be to redesign the culture. This began a lifelong quest to finding solutions to the many problems that we have today.
This presentation is a feasible plan for social change that works toward a peaceful and sustainable global civilization where human beings, technology, and nature coexist. It outlines an alternative to strive for, where human rights are not only paper proclamations, but a way of life. It is called the Venus Project. Its founder, Jacques Fresco, calls for a straightforward redesign of the culture in which war, poverty, hunger, debt, and unnecessary human suffering are viewed not only as avoidable, but totally unacceptable. It is becoming increasingly obvious that anything less will simply result in a continuation of the same problems we face today. The Venus Project's Research Center, constructed by Fresco and Roxanne Meadows, is located in Venus, Florida. It addresses many of the root causes of our difficulties. But what are the real origins of our problems? At present, we are left with very few alternatives, since we're on a collision course of our own making. Answers from yesterday are no longer relevant. Considering the damage already done to the environment, we are rapidly approaching a point of no return, where nature will dictate the course. Either we continue as we have, with outmoded social customs and habits of thought, thereby threatening our future, or we apply a more appropriate set of values, relevant to a sustainable society, with more opportunity and freedoms.
Americans have been conditioned in their kind of society to get a different kind of car next year, to buy a new television set or a tape recorder. We are radical as hell, but our political and social institutions have not changed. And this is where we are stagnating, because we always equate any new idea with communism or regimentation, because we've been brought up to fear that which is new.
None of the world's economic systems, socialism, communism, fascism, or the free enterprise system have eliminated the problems of elitism, nationalism, racism, and most of all, scarcity. These are all based primarily on economic disparity. When money is used to regulate and distribute resources for profit, and people and nations are out for themselves, they will seek advantage at any cost. They do this by maintaining a competitive edge, or through military intervention. War represents the supreme failure of nations to resolve their differences. From a strictly pragmatic standpoint, it is the most inefficient waste of lives and resources ever conceived.
Most wars are for the control of resources and maintaining your position of differential advantage. They're not based on the dignity of man. They're not based on elevating human beings. It might elevate the human beings in the country that's the victor. It might do that. But as far as the rest of the world goes, the price is enormous.
This crude and violent attempt to resolve international differences takes on even more ominous overtones with the advent of computerized nuclear delivery systems and deadly biological and chemical weapons. Yet it is a windfall money-making opportunity for those who profit by the military-industrial complex. If the profit were taken out of wars, do you really believe we would have them?
If they draft you into the army to serve this country, you put up your life for this country, they should draft all the war industries. Every cannon maker, machine gun maker, automobiles, jeeps, warships, all drafted, so on the same basis of pay as the army. Then it's real. But if you make millions selling warships, machine guns to the army, then it's corrupt. I would, if I had my way, if we had millions of men in the army, I'd send them to school to become problem solvers, how to get along with other nations. That's what we have to do, not kill. When soldiers are just killing machines, they're trained to kill. I would train them to be able to go to Mexico and bridge the difference, and go to the Arab world, see if they can bridge the difference. So bring them all together, all the nations.
War is not the only form of violence imposed upon people. There is also hunger, poverty, homelessness, and unemployment. The acceptance of these conditions as expressive of human nature is a myth used to keep things as they are.
Genetics has nothing to do with greed, business, race prejudice. All of the operant systems in any society are part of your education, the books you read, the role models you follow, and the people you admire. The genes have nothing to do except with the color of your eyes, the shape of your nose, perhaps inherited features. The genes do not control values. And even if you're born with a much better brain than another person, meaning better receptors, the quality of the tissue is better, I would say that if you have a better brain and you live in a fascist country, you become a fascist faster. The brain has no mechanism of discrimination. The brain can't tell you what is relevant or less relevant, except experience.
We are not born with greed, envy, hatred, or bigotry. Our behavior and values are reflective of the culture we are exposed to.
If you were raised by the headhunters of the Amazon, you'd be a headhunter. And if I said to you, doesn't it bother you to have 5 shrunken heads? You say, yes, my brother has 20. So, is he nuts? No, that's normal to his culture.
social and environmental problems will remain insurmountable as long as few nations control most of the Earth's resources, and the bottom line is profit over the well-being of people. Putting profit first results in unnecessary suffering and aberrant behavior prevalent today. Many people feel that we need the rule of law to eliminate our problems. We have many laws, thousands upon thousands of them, but they are constantly being broken. Paper proclamations and treaties do not alter the facts of scarcity, deprivation, and insecurity.
You can predict the shape of the future and the values if you know the trends of events and the ocean pollution, the scarcity of arable land. If you watch that degrading system grow, I can predict the riots and killing and assassination. In other words, human behavior is really generated by the surrounding environment. If there's a scarcity, say, of water, it is prized, and its price is high. Let's discuss scarcity as a system. Suppose it rained gold for about 3 days, gold dust. People would go out and shovel it in, fill the cellars, the attic, every drawer in the house. They throw out their clothing. If the rain kept up for a year, so the gold was all over the place, people would sweep it out of the house, take their rings off, throw them away, and so human behavior, and it goes, change to that condition. There's only a policeman in front of something that people have need for and don't have access to. So you put a guard there. But if lemon trees or orange trees and apple trees grew all over the place, you couldn't sell it. If you landed on an island that was so abundant with resources, you had 10 people, there were 1,000 fish for every person if you wanted it. There were 10 times the amount of breadfruit and bananas, money would not come into existence. Private property would not come into existence. If the island was big enough, there was 10 people, there were 8,000 acres. No one would give a damn about staking out this particular area. There are patterns of behavior that promote survival. There are social conditions that change our values and outlook. No one can write a constitution of required behavior without consulting the environment. So we'd better take care of the environment, we'd better take care of one another, and we'd better educate people to the highest possible levels of our ability in order to have a society.